So like this is very blinged out. It's running on Intel hardware. This is running on a GMA 3000 at the moment. So anyone who at the moment who checks out Qt 5, we have an ongoing thread in the mailing list about how to get Qt 5 to actually run decently on desktop machines. There's a nasty situation where, yeah, I assure you that wasn't our crash. There's a nasty situation where, like, if you grab the Qt 5 Alpha and you run it on your desktop machine, if you have NVIDIA hardware, then chances are it ran diabolically out of the box. I, for one, didn't actually understand why it was running as badly as it was until I realized that the NVIDIA tools, VSync isn't there by default, and Qt 5 without VSync is a no-show. It's terrible. Terrible. Like video sync, basically. So instead of actually like swapping buffers the whole time and then actually having your video, your actual screen like grab things arbitrarily, syncing to your monitor refresh rate. So your monitor actually, like I'm assuming it alerts your GPU when it's going to do a grab, and we only render frames when the monitor is about to update it, basically. So your graphics card is synchronized to your monitor, and basically Qt render at 60 frames per second, no more than that, assuming you have a refresh rate of 60 hertz. Yeah. So like and that way you get tearing-free rendering. Your CPU is actually freed up once you actually have like 60 frames per second. So it's not one of those things where Qt will not sit there rendering at 120 frames per second because of the fact that your CPU will actually allow it. So in the ideal world, your Qt applications should actually be using a very small amount of CPU, and you should be getting 60 FPS, and everyone will be happy. Then you have a lot more CPU to play with. There's no point rendering any faster than that. The drawback is that now we are entirely dependent on the actual quality of the OpenGL drivers on the different devices. So with NVIDIA, you've got to export an environment variable. The actual graphical tool they give you doesn't function at all. If you don't know that environment variable exists, and I didn't until 2 weeks ago, then it just runs terribly. On Intel hardware, it runs pretty convincingly. ATI have their own VSync options that need to be enabled. Tear-free desktop. Everyone seems to be aware of this. Now, we're talking about how to actually address it correctly. One of the things, we might actually have a launcher script that actually, depending on your graphics card, actually sets up the environment in the correct fashion.
Is this a problem on all platforms?
Yeah, clearly on Mac, right, it's a known circumstance. And Mac hardware is I don't think it's going to be an issue there. I think they already are using VSync everywhere. If they aren't using VSync, at least it's actually like a known hardware platform. So it's more of a problem with Linux because of just the vast diaspora of different hardware. And the fact that you never know what kind of GPU they're going to be running it on. So that's the primary thing. So like all the code is available for Qt Media Hub. Again, it's not meant to be a drop-in replacement for Xbox Media Center. It was just, I literally was the guy who started the project, and I took the Confluence Pix maps and started laying them out using QML, and then actually developed it over time. Garish came on board, and we started actually like trying to actually flesh it out of it. Are you sharing CPU usage, or just sharing different skins? Yeah. So we saw the look and feel of the Confluence skin. So it's meant to just really showcase QML, what relative layouts actually buy you, the animation stuff. There has been no adjustment from Qt 4 to Qt 5. I literally did a set replace of Qt Quick 1.1 with Qt Quick 2.0, and stuff still ran. So like there has been no tuning of this at all. We've entirely changed out the JavaScript engine behind the scenes, and it's using scene graph now rather than our old graphic stack. So like we literally changed everything behind it. It does mean that there are some bugs there, but I'm surprised at how few and far between they actually are. Again, all the code is there. So in order to actually, we're trying to get this into Gerrit right now. So we'd actually have it a much more stable infrastructure. Gitorious goes down the whole time. But once this is in Gerrit, then we would welcome any contributions from people. It would be very nice to actually make it functional. I've had the Xbox Media Center guys say that like what's very nice is so at the moment the way they do things is they actually have this XML format for skinning basically. So your binary application has certain plugins, and every plugin assumes it can load a certain file with the XML extension in a skin. So every time they extend the C++ APIs, the skins have got to be in lockstep with them. Every skin that doesn't flow in lockstep actually becomes incompatible with the underlying stuff basically. So your Xbox Media Center client, the 11 release right now, every skin has got to be adjusted for 11. It's going to assume that an XML file is there. If the skin is old and doesn't have the XML file, then yeah, you have a problem. You have a problem in your hands. the disconnect we have here now is that we have the C++ engine, which is exposing your models, your musical models. We will actually go through your hard disk, look for media files. We will actually read the tags of them, populate a database. The skins themselves determine how data is actually fetched in that database. So you have SQL queries in your skin that determines how you want the model that gets returned to you to actually look. So you can determine the structure of this model. So we're doing all the heavy lifting in C++, and then the entire look and feel and behavior of your skin is determined entirely in QML. So we have more logic in QML than perhaps would normally be mandated, because we end up doing a fair amount of stuff in QML. All we're using C++ for is the data.
Yeah, so the C++ side just exposes objects. The QML side chooses what to actually show in the UI. So the skin can basically choose, if it has nothing to do with videos and pictures, it can decide not to show videos and pictures in the UI.
And it uses Xbox Media Center?
No.
We just do the artwork. We show the artwork.
You're saying there's the XML scheme of the theme?
We aren't using that. I'm saying like a QML provides exactly the same functionality as an application-specific theming engine, basically. So the whole joy of this is that with 3 people, you could get something that actually looked pretty good and was pretty functional. Qt should be ready to be doing everything for you, right? Like Qt Multimedia should be handling all the multimedia considerations behind it. So if your device has VD power or some other acceleration mechanism, Qt Multimedia should be handling that. If QML is fully fleshed out for a device, for a target, it makes writing something like XBMC a bit of a doddle, to be honest, because of the fact that you should be able to sit there entirely in QML. The language lends itself to actually having these relative layouts of relatively large components. It's like and the multimedia considerations don't need to be. You don't need to have any kind of solid understanding of code in order to actually use the multimedia elements. You literally have a QML element that can be used anywhere that happens to be playing back in live video. And we have the same thing for Wayland right now. So we actually have we have QML-based Wayland compositors where you're writing a window manager entirely in QML. The QML elements you use correspond to application windows. You don't need to actually worry about this. You don't need to know about it. Right? You can just sit there in QML and write a window manager. Very low-level task that once require a lot of insight, just being the bar is lowered drastically. Cool.
And the other thing was Qt Video also works with Qt4 and Qt5. We have the same code base. So we have QML1 skins. What I showed you are QML2 skins, which are basically Qt5 skins.
There's also been some interest by different commercial bodies, just by virtue of the fact that I don't think you guys realize how low the level of competence is with many of our customers. So Qt is very well entrenched in the set-top box market. WebKit has gotten us a lot of this attention. WebKit 1 and their hybrid model is very widely used. But on a whole, people don't really know how to go from actually having nothing to having something that's semi-usable. So we have many customers who are just looking at like Qt Media Hub as a rough idea of like how do you actually end up with a decent code base, what does the code look like after a while, just the very structure of the project. So we have many people all across the world busy checking it out and running it on devices. If you contribute to the project, you get random people in random countries looking at your code. If that's any kind of a carrot. Yeah.
And this is, of course, one of the largest code bases of QML which we are aware of. It's also the reason why we are trying to make this as a part of Qt project itself. So Qt project will basically say, check out Qt Media Hub and see how QML is used.
Can we see it in action?
Yeah, that's basically what we have right now.
Play button down the corner.
Oh, these things? Yeah, they actually work. So like, if you click on this guy.
Yeah, well, not a power thing, but like a media.
These things actually through debug they actually shut down.
But like, do you have Qt Multimedia? Do you have multimedia tools or not?
No.
So he doesn't have Qt Multimedia built at all?
Actually, yeah, I do have it for. So with Shroomfluence it crashes at this point. So what we really want is.
Weren't you playing stuff later on?
Yeah, I was. So yeah, I think this. It turns out it is actually a video.
Terrible video.
Yeah.
It's big buck bunny. I'd rather see that actually. Yeah.
And music actually plays, I think.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, your music selection is kick ass. Yeah. And he's busy making KDE fans in the room. Yeah. The man's an aspiring artist.
So the user interface is this designed for, I think it's called 10-foot user interface, or is it designed for people sitting at that laptop?
The user interface isn't designed at all. It was something hacked together over 2 weeks by a developer who wanted to show just the sheer transition speed. So I'm showing the same skin on the Raspberry Pi. That's the main thing, right? Yeah, we have no designers. We have no designers on our team. We are the actual the Silicon Valley-based integration team, busy putting Qt on hardware, trying to make it run nicely. We aren't actually multimedia engine client, the developers and designers.
You do explain. As a packager, does this have releases, or you said the code is out there, but it's not yet in the garage?
So the code's on Victorious at the moment, and it can be checked out. It should be going to garage shortly. We're busy having legal scans of it. We will have tagged releases. I mean, like at the moment, we've tagged things in the past for different shows. If we actually got external contributions and we got interest in it, then of course we'll formalize it at some point. But at the moment, we're the only people really consuming it in any kind of structured fashion. So there hasn't been a need to tag it thus far. It's a chicken and egg problem, right? Like if people would benefit by us tagging it, we'd tag it with regularity.
So I'm thinking, well, we could show this to Ubuntu contributors and users and see if they would consider it as something that should be included along with Ubuntu.
Yeah.
Or not. I guess it would take some people who wanted to test it and use it to see if it's actually a really good useful end user product.
So at the moment, I'd rather stick on like a PPA along with Qt5 and just have it being something that people could actually check out Qt5, check out this, and then actually see it in that sense. But like I've actually.
That'd be a good way to start.
Yeah. Do people have any questions about it? Does anyone actually know? Yeah.
How's the video playback done? GStreamer?
For Qt, for multimedia right now, it's GStreamer. What's very interesting about the video playback right now is that it crashes in the two skins that I bought from Qt4 to Qt5. The only skin that was designed. This one, Matinee, is the only one where it's actually rock solid. So I'm assuming that I'm using the original Qt Multimedia Kit APIs from 4. That might be actually introducing some things. Because Qt Multimedia still has to settle down. That has only started being really heavily worked on now ahead of the actual alpha and the beta release. So anyone who's consuming the Qt Multimedia stuff, I mean, it's still in flux and it still has yet to actually settle down, I think. Good heads up.
Is that GStreamer on the Raspberry Pi as well?
On the Raspberry Pi, we have no multimedia playback. One of the things our group's going to do is actually tie it to things. There are two things that are occurring. Broadcom is also ongoing work to actually possibly offer GStreamer support. They will actually back onto OpenMax, but then we have the OpenMax APIs directly available to us. That's what the Xbox Media Center guys are using, and that's what we might want to actually investigate as well. But we still have to do this on the Raspberry Pi. We intend to do it on the Raspberry Pi. And also our hardware decoding of images, something that we discussed the whole time, but we've never actually tried to do before. We're going to be doing that for the Pi over the next couple of months. The Raspberry Pi now is actually becoming the reference target that we take around to customers and show them. I mean, it's an ARM11 device, right? It's literally an 8-year-old CPU. It's the cost point is very low, and for many of the people who want to use our stuff, it's a very compelling argument. Just like you can use QML, you can sit there, it's very easy for developers to actually work on it, and it'll still be very performant on the actual device itself. Do you have any question about QML in general? Does everyone
So, as the biggest QML project,
One of.
the biggest one you know of, right? The biggest QML project you know of right now, right?
No, one of. I mean, like the things like
There's Unity.
the Intel tablets. The
Intel tablet is really big. The Unity one.
Yeah. So, as that, where are the places where you struggled with performance? Anywhere? Or do you stay away from?
Well, it's very easy to write stuff that actually blows up memory-wise. It's very easy to actually write stuff that actually occupies a massive amount of memory.
And so, what were the design practices that go there? Like just
load on demand very often. So actually, from the top level menu, you see different items, and each of those items corresponds to a QML item that needs to be instantiated. So rather than actually instantiating everything on launch, actually instantiating it when it's demanded. Of course, on devices that actually have slow I/O, this becomes a bit of a problem. So the Xbox Media Center guys have exactly the same issue, where there's XML passing occurring every time you hit a menu item. So So you get the top level item, you always get this delay, and like so the practices that you follow there are, I mean, that's one of the things you'll be battling against it in C++ as well. Whether you're using QML or C++, you have the exact same problems. Of course, trying to get rid of items is trickier, right? Like once I've actually instantiated an item, I've never tried to actually, if we were to go into video, and if the video item was to be a very big complex item that had several pix maps occupied megs of memory, once I go out of it, I don't know how to destroy that using QML. I couldn't tell you right now how to destroy that. There must be a way, but I've never done it before.
Is it dynamically created?
It's like garbage collection.
There's a garbage collection, but I don't know how to actually, I don't know how to actually instigate that. I don't know how to tell this guy like garbage.
I was just asking, so the QML item that you're talking about, did you create it dynamically?
Yes, yeah, it's easy.
It's easy to
Okay, cool.
We use it in Confluence.
We do actually destroy them when we actually close them down?
The menus. So right, initially in Confluence, at least the Q4 based Confluence, we used to have all the like menus, pictures, everything was loaded on startup, all the QML, so it would just like 15 seconds to start up.
But then it would be snappy.
What we did instead is, like you go into each, only when you enter inside the menu item is the Windows QML that's loaded, and when you exit out, the thing is destroyed.
That's not true though, it's not destroyed, because it's much quicker to load the second time. Much quicker, tangibly quicker.
Okay.
I guarantee you we aren't destroying them when we exit out of them at the moment. I mean, it might be easy, but we aren't doing it right now. Yeah. Yeah. Other questions? Very good questions. And no one asked questions of that? Savik, do you have a question? Yeah, but where we tend to go with it right now. So the biggest skin that we actually have is the Confluence skin that we showed initially. So like this right now is very nice. It shows bling, and like you are seeing many layers of shading, or shaders busy occurring. It really isn't designed with usability in mind. It's just meant to be showcasing stuff. The actual skin that we have that's most usable is the Confluence skin, but none of us knew QML when we started writing it, so it was our first QML code base. So if you look at it, you can see exactly what happens with people who don't know QML, write QML. We need to actually now retrospectively go and actually write a clean, from first principles QML skin with some knowledge given what we've garnered from actually writing this. One of the big problems that we had with writing it was the focus model that Girish and I have discussed already today. Focus handling in QML. It feels like it was designed for touchscreen devices. It was, so like this is actually pretty understandable. We managed to solve it for skins, but because of the fact everything is done in the skin, right? So like it's a drawback in this regard. We have solved it for one skin. So every time we write a skin now, we have to kind of go back and look at that skin and see how we did the magic that actually made focus actually function. Because at one point in that one skin, we were beating each other up the whole time. Every time someone would commit something to QML, the focus would get stolen by another QML item.
I think the toughest part of QML itself is the focus handling, because QML itself is very declarative, very nice, but when you deal with focus handling, suddenly it's all imperative. Because all the quick items don't have an understanding of focus at this point, like in the widget code.
The added views. All the existing containers, none of them are keyboard aware whatsoever. You have to hack onto every single one of them. It's a bit unfortunate. Yeah, it is.
It's meant for touch interfaces.
I know.
Yeah, that's the first priority.
And what worries me is that I wish we actually gotten more feedback in the course of QQuick 1 about this specifically, but the primary consumers were people who actually running system via devices.
Touch the new devices.
Yeah. So the feedback was very constrained. We would have benefited a lot by actually, because the QQuick 2 was a very good avenue to fix most of these problems. Right.
Yeah, we had a huge problem with focus also in usually this done in QML, and each time you try to use the keyboard, it works, but you have to hit it with a stick, right? Give me the focus. Give it to me again.
Trial and error, and then force active focus, which is something you
that's something you're not supposed to do.
Yeah, exactly. We're told not to use it, and we use it everywhere. Yeah, this is
Sounds like software.
Yes. Yeah.
This has a load of QML panels and only 2 JavaScript panels I can see.
Quite possibly, yeah. And even the JavaScript files.
What's the JavaScript used for there?
I think it's just for global variables. You can check. This used in Confluence or QML. It's basically a hack for, I think it's activation and this, But we do actually close them. That's what I wanted to show. That's the delete stuff. So this thing will actually go and delete.
Okay, yeah, but we don't set that for the core items, we only set that for applications. We also have this arbitrary application framework where we actually just load in other applications. All we're trying to do is actually, but we aren't sandboxing them at all, so we aren't doing anything overly interesting. We're literally using the exact same declarative engine that we're using for our skin for the application. So the application crashes, you crash the whole media player. But of course, this is exactly where we want out-of-process stuff happening, and we want to be using Wayland. So we want to get out-of-process stuff functioning. It would be very nice to be able to use this as a standalone like media player on a set-top box. So like the Raspberry Pi, we need Wayland support, and then we'd actually use Confluence. The actual Qt Media Hub would itself be a compositor, and it would be compositing application windows. That way, like if they crashed, we could run whatever application we wanted in them. It wouldn't have to be a Qt application. That's all we used. It could be anything. It could even be the Quake 3 demo that they actually have. As and like just be using Qt Media Hub as a compositor. This is a very feasible thing. All this requires for us to actually land Wayland support for the Raspberry Pi.
So you say you want, for Wayland, you want to separate the user interface from the other side. Is that a Wayland feature?
The Wayland feature here would be, so we already have, for Wayland right now, we already have just a QML compositor that actually just uses the actual Wayland client-side stuff to actually just handle the rendering. So there's no reason right now why, like, as far as you're concerned in our project, if we compile the Wayland support into our runtime binary, in our QML classes, once we've actually imported the QML, the Wayland stuff that we actually have, you'd literally just be able to use Windows Surface items as regular QML items. When we launch an application, we can just create them and actually know that the content's going to end up there. So it's been dumbed down drastically by the existing Qt Wayland compositor stuff that exists today. So yes, in Qt 5 with Wayland, the actual application by application window management is entirely doable, which is alarming for some people, of course, because like a window manager is normally something which actually stands compliant and actually fixed in stone. But like if you're going to be shipping devices, of course, this is a far more flexible, far more appealing approach. A custom window manager per device.
Written in QML.
Written in QML.
Yeah, the window manager itself is written in QML.
Cool.
Do you guys have like any questions on Qt Quick 2, QML 2, anything? Packaging, translation. Difference between QML 1 and 2?
Yes, I've looked at this before, but remind me.
Okay, so QML 1 is the engine we had with Qt 4. It has JavaScript stuff. It is based on JavaScript code, which comes from the WebKit project. Most of the UI there was basically based on the underlying graphic system used by Qt. So this would either be Raster or X11 through Xrender, or the Windows one, which is basically a Raster.
Or the OpenGL engine.
Or the OpenGL. Yeah. So you have this variety of engines you could target with Qt 4. But at some point we decided that, you know what, all these abstractions are just slowing QML down, the rendering. So we decided we'll go with something called the scene graph. Scene graph will assume OpenGL ES2 all the way through, and the result is QML 2. QML 2 as a package offers many things. One part is the rendering engine. The new rendering engine, it's called scene graph, completely based on OpenGL ES2. The other part is the JavaScript stuff. The JavaScript stuff is now based on the.
It's based on OpenGL ES2. I understand.
There's a hard dependency of Qt Quick 2 on OpenGL ES2. It's a requirement.
So do all graphics chips do OpenGL ES?
Those which don't need a software OpenGL has
But it's pretty normal when like a laptop you're holding.
Yeah. It's become very common these days. In fact, there's hardly any hardware we know of which doesn't have ES2.
Well,
these days, new.
Well, it depends whether you're referring to V2 or what I think might be long for as well is on a desktop machine, our scene graph does actually have desktop GL back stuff, right? It's not actually relying on ES2 there. So you maybe make it sound like ES2 is mandatory even for desktop machines.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, that's the point.
Yeah.
So no, we do use desktop GL on desktop machines. And I don't know what OpenGL version is mandatory there. I'm not sure whether it's OpenGL 2. In Linux land, I thought that's the one that everyone kind of covers. Because I know Intel's meant to have OpenGL 3 support. NVIDIA goes to OpenGL 4. But like for many of these devices, like you're sitting there with some legacy arbitrary OpenGL version. I don't know what the actual requirements are for C# in that regard, actually.
The other thing is this naming between QML, quick, declarative. We keep mixing these things, right? And the actual terminology is that declarative is just the declarative. It's bindings. When one property changes, another thing. So it's like a programming style. That's declarative. QML is just the language. Quick is the user interface elements which are made for QML. Does that make sense?
I understand it.
Okay, so it's like QML and JavaScript are on the same line, and let's say Yahoo UI widgets and Quick are on the same line.
How do you translation work? Since you mentioned it.
How do we do translation? Like internationalization? Yeah, okay, so in QML we have this function called tr, just like in C++. So the equivalent is QSTR in QML. So for all user visible stuff, just use QSTR everywhere, and then the tools take care of creating. It's the same route as in the widget world. You go through linguist, create the translation files.
I wonder if KDE has a translation framework for use in QML files. KDE doesn't use a Q translation framework, it uses gettext.
You do.
Ah,
It uses
You do. There's the KD targeting model and there's the I18N
Right.
function we use.
And the key components getting much love.
I wouldn't say getting much love. I'm not quite sure how to quantify that. I know the work's occurring. For a long time it wasn't, but like it certainly is something which is pressing, and like no one debated it was going to be pressing. We wanted to have it for 5.0, but like I don't know what the timeline is now. But like it's certainly like I'm aware of no larger, more apparent functional gap that we have now than that. Yeah.
so at this point I think like the focus is just to get Qt5 out. And I think as soon as Qt5 is out, you will see a lot of, I mean, the immediate focus will be components.
I mean, this is like did you see the blog thread, the 250 comment blog about like QWidgets isn't going away? I mean, everyone's probably in this room, all those people, all those angry people are probably all in this room right now. You don't look angry, but like, deep inside, smoldering.
That's it, no more push buttons anywhere. You have to write your own. Yeah, no, that's not happening.
Yeah.
But it's just nice to have, components you can run, nice to have.
Yes, definitely. And essentially, we want to push the stuff, and if if you're going to replace QWidgets, it was so convenient. Then to make everyone start with the rectangle seems a bit cruel. And the focus model that we already mentioned is very broken. It seems like you're trying to pick a fight with someone, but we are trying to do that, and we will try to address it as soon as we can.
Yeah, but I just wanted to know how to
In Qt video, actually, we have components for each skin. Each skin, like, you see the components thing here, right? So, yeah, we create each skin goes and creates its own components.
Yeah, what's up?
What's
What's the covers?
which one do you want to see? Like, button? Oh. Image crossfade is nice. It crossfade between images. Do you want to see that?
And even that shouldn't exist as a component. So I mean, it's always a problem, right? Like if you come from a C++ background, you always have the desire to subclass the whole time. You create customized instances of things. With QML, okay, you really have to like look into your soul and actually decide whether you actually it's like worth actually creating an arbitrary abstraction. It made a lot more sense for devices that are, I'd use the Intel tablet again as a good example because that's a nice big public thing where like components made a lot of sense. In that circumstance, there's an undeniable value in components. For projects like ours, on a per skin basis. Like you really, the same button has to come up. You really want to see the same button like 8 times before you're like, okay, damn it, I'm going to actually listen to one single file. It's going to behave consistently. You always have to weigh that up. That was actually one of the drawbacks, right? See, instead of wasting time creating abstractions, you work on the thing until you hit it a couple times. You make up a magical number yourself, and at that point, you actually create some kind of a centralized abstraction. But like, it's very different from the C++ model. Very different.
Yeah, I can see why desktop components are required, but for any other project which is not tied to the desktop, component project is really not that interesting because to knock up, I mean, this is the button, it just has stuff which we want. It needs an image, it needs fixed map, that's it. It takes like a minute to create that file, and you can just move on instead of getting this whole component project which has this API.
It's like HTML, right?
Yeah, yes.
For instance, that those the challenge of the square, it's just like if you're in HTML, you have the same thing.
Yeah.
Do you use Qt Designer?
Mm-hmm.
Do you use Qt Designer or the stuff that was built into Qt Creator to make this
Not
less hacker-ish, less? You don't have to be somebody who cares about code to work.
Yeah. At least we started this thing like a couple of years back when there were no tools to create human.
Yeah.
But I think at this point, Qt Creator is supposed to support. I can't speak because I don't use Qt Creator at all.
Yeah.
It works. Yeah. So,
we know it works. The quality, the thing is like how good a development experience is. Like,
Well, not to your satisfaction, sure.
No, I've never used it. That's my point, basically. And like the tooling as well, I've never actually used the tooling. So like, if you start off writing natural code, I mean, it's the same thing with any IDE, right? If you are used to functioning and getting work done in a certain environment, like I write with QML instead of Vim. So like, it's an engineering problem as opposed to a tool problem. I can't vouch for the tools, I've never used them before. Has anyone here used the actual QML profiling tools in Creator? Are they good?
The profiling tools are very good.
Yeah. Cool.
Like they tell you like where each of the milliseconds time is being spent, like updating a property because you changed something, like the propagation of the mode. Right?
Cool.
It's very good.
Cool.
Qt file as well, and the experience of the JavaScript engine as well, so you can see that that's not really, so it works very well.
Are the probes all there in Qt Creator today for Q5? Can you actually go through into the JavaScript stuff? Is that, did you have to build your own Creator?
I saw
Or?
a video, but I didn't actually play with it myself, so it's still being in progress.
Okay. Yeah, that's when we land that. It'll be, yeah, very nice. True. And that's one of the reasons why people are legitimately screaming on the actual forums, because they don't really know with QML how to actually debug things and profile things, right? You've gone from like land where like the tools are very well known, everyone knows bull grind. I mean, it's not just about learning QML versus C++, it's about actually all the tools that go into actually debugging stuff, profiling stuff, and actually knowing quantity. That these are legitimate queries, and at the moment, like I've never really profiled the stuff, which is actually a bit of a damn shame. And by the way, so this thing over here, so this actually shouldn't even be used or actually function at all. This is importing Qt 1.1. I don't understand how this could even possibly function. You're in Confluence, you're not in Shroomfluence.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Don't mind me. I was having a little heart attack. So my great big porting effort from Q4 to Q5 involved replacing the top statement with a Qt 2.0.
Do you have any tips on reading stack traces of when a QML application crashes? Maybe QML plus Qt, it's a crash. It's somewhere in the JavaScript or the binding gone wrong.
This is exactly where I hope the profiling tools would actually save you money, because if you're looking at C++ trace, I can't imagine any useful information coming out of that. It's a very good way to lose your mind very quickly.
Yeah.
This is exactly where runtimes are really painful, right? You have a VM that crashes somewhere and then try to.
And the asynchronous nature, that's what's actually important.
And in that circumstance, all I normally do is actually try to reduce it down, and even then trying to reduce down QML stuff, of course, it's a bit of a nightmare in its own right as well. So like, I admit it isn't very graceful, and like, the profiling tools really need to be very good, and I have to get familiar with them so I can advise people correctly. But like, without profilers, I mean, you're back to the dark ages of actually like console.log, and then reducing things down. There's not.
I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah.
I gave a talk about QML to a group that included a lot of people who had startup companies doing mobile media code apps and that sort of thing. And their first question was, how, if you don't want people to see the code, how can you compile it so that they can't see the code? and I just said, well, that was very antisocial, but what would be, is Rebecca answered,
It was actually, on this blog post that we actually had, people were requesting certain functionality. There was a poll associated with that. You guys had urged you all to go and vote in the poll, assuming it isn't actually closed. And like, because we had this very large group of people that were busy demanding C++ APIs for the C graph. But some people were asking for authentication, and I agree that would be far more valuable actually. I don't know right now how you protect your IP when you ship a QML application. You could possibly use like authenticator. It's a binary. It produces a binary format. Yeah, but you can reverse that. I mean, like it's not actually something which is actually there's no encryption. It's not encrypted in any kind of way. You binary encode it. That can be reversed. That is not how you're going to protect your IP. If you invest years in it, you aren't going to. It's a binary format now. It needs to be encrypted in some way. That was one of the functionality requests that was there. I'd urge you guys to vote. Please, you have a vote. Go onto actually like if you go onto the actual blog post, you can see where the poll link is. I can think of no better way of doing it. Please cast your votes.
You can always hide your IP stuff in C++. The JavaScript stuff and the QML stuff is usually not very interesting. Just like HTML and JavaScript, all the magic happens in the server. That code is closed. You can see all the HTML and JavaScript you want.
If there was something in QML that you didn't want to show people,
yeah, just you can see.
You could prototype and here's QML and then just have it as a string or something in C++ when you compile it and pretend to use it.
I still think it's very antisocial.
Yeah.
But that didn't please them, right?
If anyone's interested, my company is actively looking to hire people to write in C++ and QML. So, come get a business card from you or a friend. Come get a business card from me.
Good. So we have many customers. So we're still actually primarily I was facing the most public evident customer is probably Panasonic Avionics, who are actually like using QML all over the place in different airlines that are flying around. Normally I can't stand in-flight entertainment systems, but these are incredibly luxurious and very high-end airlines, and I assure you, it's beautiful at the top. But sincerely, they use QML very heavily, and they use QML on some very low-end targets, like some 333 megahertz devices I've seen us using it. They use our raster engine as well, so they're doing a very good job, and they use it in very, very constrained environments with very low memory profiles, and they, it's normally, the data is normally all centralized, and they have QML at every seat, where they're using it exactly the way you actually want to be using it. They're taking full advantage of the fact that everything is a remote resource. They're using it in a very wonderful, functional fashion. It scratches many of the itches. There are many people where I'd expect it to be like a perfect domain tool for different people, including set-top box manufacturers. And we have a couple of people who are using QML for front ends for set-top boxes. I can't think of any real good publicly known examples of this though. So many people, I'm not sure who I can mention. It's free because, yeah. Grish visited free about a week and a half ago. He was blown away by the technical competence of these people. They did a whole bunch of very complex, very sophisticated things.
So Free is a set-top box company, they're actually a telecom company from France. And they actually shipped with Qt Quick 1 and QPA with Qt 4.7 and to top it. This is 4.7 because QPA shipped with Qt 4.8, but they actually backported everything to 4.7. They had Qt Quick 1 with 4.7, which is okay. But what is even better is that they shipped with Wayland.
In 2010.
In 2010.
2010.
Yes, and they have like I think a million boxes. I don't know.
Yeah,
There's millions of boxes, but they are very fan specific.
So our stuff is edible. Yeah. Very edible. Cool.
Do you want to mention about the Qt 5 on the desktop? Like the differences in the graphics card?
I mentioned that earlier on. Yeah. I mean, I hope everyone here who's got a vested interest in Qt and Qt5 actually is already subscribed to the mailing list. There's ongoing dialogue there about how to actually try to get around, how to get optimal performance out of Qt5. I mentioned at the start of this talk the fact that it's very easy to actually get a very funny view of Qt5, but you can wonder what we're actually doing behind the scenes because Qt5 can be very non-compelling if your desktop environment isn't configured correctly. So our media player, Qt Media Hub, was basically using 100% CPU on one core, and it was actually still performing absolutely terribly. And that was because VSync was not enabled on the graphics card. It literally is chalk and cheese. It's completely unusable without VSync being enabled. And the best way to actually find out about this in detail is to actually go to these mailing lists and actually read stuff. We're going to try to solve it for the actual 5.0 release so that there's some way to actually hide this from people. In the meantime, if you're busy investigating it, I mean, like if you use Qt 5 on a real low-end device using like our ETLFS driver, then it performs beautifully. Everything performs absolutely beautifully. Desktop is the primary problem, and it's just like it's vendor-specific card issues. And out of the box, we disable threaded rendering, OpenGL rendering, because of, again, crappy drivers, and something called buffer queuing OpenGL. We disable both of these things in the actual XCB plugin. Both of these things I manually go and enable the whole time. It drastically improves performance. It's only there because other people have bad graphics cards, so we just tend to actually opt for crappy performance out of the box because of graphical instabilities in other people's cards. So if you have decent hardware, like an NVIDIA graphics card or an Intel graphics card, then you should be golden. If you're using S3 or Trident, then yeah. I'm not sure that I'm liable now. Anyway.
Is it worth you having a conversation with the Ubuntu UDS people to see if there's anything they should, any default settings or whatnot they should change the drivers to make sure that QML works great?
Well, I mean, I think that the NVIDIA drivers are out of their hands. For the open drivers, I agree. We also just try to actually clarify with them that these things are requirements. Yeah. But with any proprietary driver, their hands are going to be tied. And with NVIDIA, it's an environment variable. It's so gross. It is so gross. It is this, like a sync to v blank, underscore sync to v blank is equal to 1. Then it's golden. Then you're flying. Questions? Especially QML questions. We'd love a QML question. No?
You're off time.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you.